Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, Sprint Smarter, Not Harder, Elevate Agile Collaboration with GitLab and Parabol. Before we kick off today's session, I wanted to take a quick minute to go over what we do here at Fierce Software. Fierce Software is a small, women-owned, value-added reseller. We specialize in enterprise open source software, market-leading DevOps capabilities, and secure data platforms for our public sector customers. Our unique reseller perspective helps us understand your goals and technology challenges, allowing us to offer solutions from our extensive portfolio instead of just a single vendor approach. We set ourselves apart in the reseller market by consistently delivering on our core capabilities. We are an innovation broker to leading technologies, getting our customers access to the smartest people and the best technology available. We are a licensed manager, streamlining customer fulfillment and reducing administrative burdens. Our focus is on customer success, ensuring technical support through vendor-trained and certified professional services. We also provide customer enablement by delivering workshops, webinars like this one, and hands-on events to educate our customers about new features and enhance their team's capabilities. At Fierce Software, we're proud to work closely with our trusted partners to bring innovative solutions to the public sector. One of the ways we're doing that is through our Innovation Lab, a secure hands-on environment built with GitLab, Red Hat, and Dell technologies. Whether you're on-site or remote, it's designed to let government agencies and system integrators explore technologies like Red Hat OpenShift, OpenShift virtualization, GitLab CI/CD capabilities, GitOps, and DevSecOps workflows, all in a realistic, mission-aligned setting. Now, a quick look at today's agenda. We'll begin with some speaker introductions, then we'll jump into the live demo and wrap up with the Q&A session at the end. If at any points you have questions during this session, please feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll be sure to answer them. Now, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today's webinar. First up, we have Rachel, a solutions architect at GitLab. Over her career, she's helped enterprise teams reduce cycle times and improve efficiency and meet their strategic goals through standardization. She brings over 15 years of expertise in Agile management, software development, and DevSecOps. Next, we have Jordan, the founder and CEO of Parabol. With a background in product development and consulting on better ways of working, he's passionate about making teamwork more meaningful and effective through better tools and practices. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand things off to Jordan.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. If it's afternoon, good morning. If it's the morning, I'd like to introduce myself and Parable. And so if we could go to the next slide. You might be asking yourself, what is Parable? You've probably heard of GitLab. Parable is a self-hostable, secure application that facilitates popular activities and meetings like retrospectives, incident postmortems, stand-ups, scrum meetings, sprint poker, all of those sorts of things. What we do and the way we differentiate ourselves is we structure the activities. So rather than placing folks in an infinitely scrollable whiteboard, you're into a space, a collaborative space with your colleagues that guides yourself and the participants in the meeting exactly what to do at any time. We also transform those activities to be mostly asynchronous. So people can participate in them on their own time. So if you find yourself playing an impossible game of find the open spot on 10 people's calendar, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just distribute a link to Parable and participate in a collaborative activity when you have a free moment. And we work across multiple kinds of devices. So browsers, phones, all sorts of things. And we're highly integrated into tools like GitLab. So I'll pass it over to Rachel, who can tell you more about that.
Thanks. Yeah, so for those of you that are not familiar with GitLab, it is a comprehensive platform for the entire DevSecOps lifecycle. So you can go from the agile management planning stages to software development, storing your code. then validating that code with automated pipelines and integrated security scanning, all the way to managing your security workflows, as well as deploying those changes to any number of environments, which you can also manage in GitLab. So that's why we're called a DevSecOps platform, because you can do everything that you need to do for software development on this platform. And you'll notice on this slide, we are AI powered. And one of the benefits of having a single platform is having a single data store where all of these different personas who are involved in this process are collaborating, and they have real-time updates as to what's happening in the project and when. But then when you bring AI into the mix, AI has that bigger context than if you had AI tooling in for each individual stage for individual products. With having AI at the platform level, it has much more context, and it can provide efficiencies throughout the entire process, as opposed to just focusing on those siloed portions of the process. And of course, today, because we are talking about agile management, we will be focused a lot on the agile component of GitLab, but I did want to note that we can do the entire process and have AI baked in to that entire process. So now I'm going to share my screen. If we go to the next slide, you'll see we're going to dive right into a demo. So I will share my screen. Excuse me. So right now we are looking at a project in GitLab.com. This is the MechaFix project, and MechaFix is a platform that I and Jordan are building to track and manage the repairs of drone fleets. So as you can see, this project gives you kind of a summary of what the project is, what's required to install and use it. And in this demo, I'm actually a product manager for MechaFix. If we look on the left-hand side here, you'll see we have a whole suite of tools here. As I mentioned, GitLab is the single platform for the entire DevSecOps lifecycle. So we have our code repository, the ability to create automated pipelines, and then manage our security workflow, as well as then release our code and deploy it to any number of environments. So as a product manager, I don't really need to make use of most of these features. I mostly spend all of my time working in our plan section, which is, where we track all of our agile related work. And so, while I don't make use of all of these features, I do get really big benefits in having all of this work in one place, because as the product manager, I get real-time updates as to what's happening on the development side of things. And, if a security vulnerability arises and gets logged, we can actually create an issue and track it in our agile management boards, so that I can accurately plan for what I'm going to release in what version, and account for any vulnerabilities that might arise. And moreover, my development team is really happy that they don't have to context switch and move to another agile planning tool just to update the product managers on the status of things. They can stay in a single place, and continue into their workflow. So if I explore some of these planning functions more deeply, here we have a list of all the issues that we're tracking for this project. I can filter and search by different pieces of metadata, which is really great if I'm looking for something very specific, if I'm looking to see work that was previously done and I have a good search word for it. But it's not really great for telling me, what is our top priority for this release, or how are we doing towards meeting our release goals? And that's where our issue boards come in to help me as the product manager get a better sense of the things that we have going on. So if I wanted to just get a real-time status update on where things stand in our workflow, I could pull up our workflow status board. I'm not going to go into super deep detail about how we create these boards, but essentially they're there are columns of lists of issues that we're pulling in based on a specific piece of metadata, like a label or a milestone, which in GitLab is a release. So in this case, I have created labels. They're advanced scoped labels that essentially allow you to create categories. So only one type of that label can be assigned to an issue. And I've created those for each of our different stages of our workflow. So we have our triage, design, in progress, refine, and complete. Um, and triage is kind of like our backlog of things that we still need to figure out, like who's going to work them and when. But for example, if I knew that we were already currently starting to talk about the design of the ability to monitor and control multiple drones, I could move that over. And as you drag and drop issues in these boards, like most Kanban boards, it's going to update that issue with the correct label. So basically, I'm able to kind of get a high level overview. Anyone on the team, not just the PM, but even if I was a developer, could come here and kind of get a status update of where things are at. Now I want to kind of pivot and show you what one of these issues looks like. So I'll pull up this issue, repair tracking technician user story. Like any Agile tool, you're able to create a title and a description using rich text editor. And I can tell from this issue, again, I'll also take a step back and say issues in GitLab are like user stories in any other Agile planning tool. And this user story is for a technician persona. And that persona needs to be able to log repair issues with descriptions, photos, and severity levels. So that's kind of a big functionality we got to build out. And I've broken this up into tasks. So if we look at these child items, you have the ability in GitLab to create tasks under issues because you may need to break things up into smaller chunks. And so I've created tasks for each of those specific pieces of functionality that we have to build out. So for example, our repair tracking photos, and this is a work item type of a task, but I can still assign a bunch of metadata just like I can with an issue. I can assign the weights, I can assign it to an engineer. I can set it to be worked in a specific milestone, which is a release in GitLab. So I can see that's being set to be worked in our 1.0 release. Um, and it can also be assigned to a specific sprint. As you can see here, we call them iterations in GitLab. Um, so yeah, I am able to break that up into smaller chunks. I do want to note that in GitLab, we have the ability to create epics if you need to have a higher planning across many portfolios of projects, or you have kind of a long running roadmap. And then you can assign issues to roll up into those epics. And then, of course, tasks roll up into issues. I didn't want to explore epics today because that's a much wider topic. But I do want to note that you can have epics. You can also link issues together to show relationships. And this development panel down here is another key component of GitLab. It's going to show you all of the development work or activity that's happening in relation to this issue. So we can see we have one merge request in draft, and a pipeline was recently run and it passed and it's assigned to this engineer. The way we create that relationship is when an engineer is assigned to work the ticket, they'll create the merge request, get to work on that, and forever you have that linkage and traceability between the planning object as well as the code changes that happen in the Git repository. And once the merge request is complete and all the changes have been made and merged back into our production branch, it's going to automatically close this issue. That creates another quick feedback loop for me as a product manager. I know when things are completed. I don't have to wait for teams to go and to another tool and update that the issue was resolved. If we scroll down, you'll see, much like most agile planning tools, you'll have an activity log of everything that happened on this issue. You can have comments and discussions. As you can see, there is a threaded conversation here about what library we need to use for the photo uploads. You can resolve threads to show that, oh, this we've already made a decision on this. We can resolve this thread so folks coming in know that the discussion isn't still going on. And one cool thing that I mentioned, that we do have AI features kind of built into the whole workflow. One of the features that we have on our issues is the ability to summarize an issue. So if I click this, our Duo features are going to take a look at everything that happened in the activity and give me an update so that I don't have to take the time to read through it. So as you can see, it's giving me a very brief summary. It's telling me that there is a conversation around which library or Ruby library or gem to use for photo uploads. And the team consensus was reached that we should use carrier wave, and it's giving me the reason why it was chosen. So I don't have to go through and kind of get into the weeds of these comments. Obviously, this is kind of a shorter issue. I'm sure you've seen long-running issues where there's lots of conversation happening. So this Duo chat feature can really help save quite a bit of time, both for the product manager who is managing this, but also for developers who might be coming in and looking at these issues. Okay, the final things I want to show are on this right side, the metadata panels. Obviously, this is the folks who are assigned to work it. Here you can select issue weight. In GitLab, the weights is the equivalent of story points. And that's just a numeric value that you can put in. And obviously you decide with your team how you want to measure those story points. And then here we have our milestone and iteration. Again, milestones are releases, iterations are sprints. So we're working on this issue in our 1.0 release, which is our current release for MechaFix. And then I just want to point out a couple more fields here. We have priority and user story type. These are two really exciting new features that we are releasing into GitLab in 18.0. Which if you're in the audience, have made use of GitLab Agile tools, you'll probably be really excited about this because it's been a long time coming. But we're releasing the ability to add custom fields. So as you can see, I created a priority custom field, and I have these three options. It's set to 1 because it's a really high priority. And then I also created a user story type custom field, which is essentially we have multiple different types of personas that will be using this tool. And I wanted to differentiate between them. So because this is for technicians, I selected the technician user story. So yes, if you are currently using GitLab, look out for the 18.0 release and the ability to add those custom fields in your projects and groups. Okay, so that kind of summarizes what an issue looks like, how we actually define work in GitLab. I'm going to go back to our planning board or issue boards, because another big component of my job as a PM is to plan out our releases and what we're going to work on and release in each version. So I've created another planning board here for release planning. And so these are all open issues that haven't yet been assigned. They're kind of in the backlog. They haven't been assigned to be worked in any given release. And as I move through here, you can see our 1.0 release, which is our current release, 1.1 and 1.2. So we're planning, a few releases in the future. And I could, maybe I know that we'll be able to get to this updated MR settings issue in the 1.2 release. So I'll move it over here, and it's going to update the issue and show the release. So that is a really useful tool for me as a PM. But as a PM, I can have this idea and these plans for what we're going to work on when. But the reality of that can often change. If you're a product manager, you're very familiar with it, or if you're a scrum master, things can really change as teams get into the work. So before I start going deeper into planning out these releases, I first want to go check out my current release so that I can understand how we're doing towards tracking and meeting those goals. And this is a list of all of the different releases we have. I'm going to go into our 1.0 release, which is the current release, and I get this very nice burn up and burn down chart showing me kind of how we're doing towards meeting that. Right now, it's filtering or showing me by issue count. Um, I really want to take a look at the issue weight because that's going to give me a more accurate reflection of how much work we have because not all issues are the same amount of effort. So I'm getting this really nice burn up and burn down chart view. If I scroll down, I'm seeing all of the unstarted and open issues, all of the issues that are currently being worked, as well as the closed issues for this release. And on the right hand side, this just gives you a kind of textual understanding of this visual representation. We're releasing in July, which so we've got plenty of time, which is great. I'm also seeing the time tracking estimations because developers can put how much time they've spent on a feature in the issue itself. But then I also can see that we have a total issue weight of 117 story points. And we came to this number as a team previously when we first started planning out this tool. And as I'm not a technical, person, right? I'm a product manager, and as the technical team has gone in and started doing the work. Maybe the number of story points has changed. Maybe there's actually more work than I'm accounting for in my 1.0 release plan, and I really want to make sure that this is accurate. Especially because as a PM, I'm getting asked by many different stakeholders, what is going to be released in this version? Are we going to make it on time, etc. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Jordan, who's the technical lead on the team, and he's going to take us through some exercises to make sure that we've set the right amount of story points for this release, and that we have the right acceptance criteria and sizing. So I will turn it over to you, Jordan.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So I imagine many of us on today's webinar are practicing Agile today. Perhaps if you're somewhere earlier on your Agile journey, you may be not as familiar with the idea of planning poker. That's a practice where you get technical stakeholders together, often with your product manager, somebody that has accountability for steering the direction of the product, and you review a set of issues toward a milestone or a release, and you refine the acceptance criteria and the associated effort. What that does is it allows you to track team velocity, which is how many issues on average you can clear in a sprint period, or it allows you to become more accurate with your estimates for delivery against a release or an epic. Um, when you think of Parable, I want you to think about bringing people together into these moments where something has a beginning and a middle and an end. In this case that I'm going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate planning poker, where the beginning is we have a bunch of issues that we're going to concentrate on in our upcoming sprint. We're going to check their acceptance criteria and estimate them. And then we're going to push those updated estimates back to GitLab. So when Rachel's interacting with her stakeholders, she can let people know when we're going to deliver, say, the repair tracking feature. So I'll share my screen and y'all can have a look at what Parable looks like. Okay, cool. So this is the Parable interface. We have a team just for this webinar. Here are all the people that are invited to that team. And Parable integrates really nicely with GitLab. So when you go here, this is the GitLab integration all set up and connected. And what I can do is I can click on the big red button and I can start an activity. And loud and proud, right under the quick start menu, are three activities that are super common that most users start with. So I'm going to do an estimated effort meeting, and I'll turn off the icebreaker for today. And what I'll do is I'll start the activity immediately. One of the cool things about Parable is you don't have to have an Agile Scrum Master actually facilitating the activities because our tool will do that for you. So imagine that I'm the technical lead. Your Agile expert can delegate that responsibility. And so today I'm going to be playing a technical lead that is going to help us refine our estimates for all the repair tracking issues. And, I'll just pull in a subset of them. And so I'll pull in these three, and you can see here you can type in a query, you could filter down by project if you want, but I've got my three on the agenda, and I'll click next. And I see that my team has already joined me here. Those are those avatar faces. Oh, wow, that's really cool. And if you wanted to pull some more people into any activity, it's really easy. You just click this button, you get a really nice share link. I'll drop it into the panelist chat. If you're on the webinar as a participant, you won't see it. We're just demonstrating here. And what happens is everyone gets this nice deck of cards. You can configure what scale is appropriate for your team. If you want to use t-shirt sizes or what have you, you can as well. And then people can vote. And so as we look at this issue, repair tracking technician user story, we can review the acceptance criteria. If we wanted to make an edit to it, like, oh, we're not accounting for this shade or feature of this story, it's really easy to just pop right into GitLab and apply those edits, and the content will stay synced here. And I see everybody has voted, but me, so let's say I'll say that's an effort of 5. And then what I can do is I can reveal the votes, and it gives you this really nice histogram of what everybody thinks the effort is. So I can see that, Rachel and another teammate voted this one an 8. The middle of the bell curve is a 5. We could have a discussion here. We're doing this today synchronously, but you could have a threaded chat over here and be like, why an 8? And maybe somebody's going to say, oh, we didn't consider this aspect or that aspect. And after having a discussion, we could either call a revote or we could just choose the score. And as soon as I click on the score and it comes up here to what we've elected to be the output of this particular estimation, it's going to populate a field that we configure in GitLab. And so if I raise this issue once again, just to show you, now that weight has automatically been adjusted to 5. And if I were to scroll down to the bottom, you'll actually see that that weighted field has changed. And you can see who changed it in GitLab. So when I click next, we'll go to the next agenda item, same thing. We can be like, all right, what's the effort going to be in order to do issue descriptions? And, maybe I'll say this one's an 8. And there's a total split between the 3s and the 8s. And so again, we'd have a discussion and, maybe it is simpler than we think and we'll set this one a 3. And I'll just do one more for demonstration's sake. Oh yeah, photos definitely get hard. I might say something like, I'm unfamiliar with the carrier wave Ruby gem, something like that. That's why I think it's going to be more complicated. We'll click reveal votes. And we'll let the 8s carry on this one. Okay, cool. That's how you do planning poker in Parabol. And when you click the end meeting button, what you're going to get is a nice summary of exactly every issue that you've estimated. If you wanted to pop that out as a CSV file, maybe you've got some sort of process where you're doing and analyses to try and like true up how accurate you were against estimations. You can do that. You can get it as a PDF. And the other thing that's nice is anytime you start or end an activity in Parable, if you have us integrated against a chat platform, so like Microsoft Teams, Mattermost, Slack, whatever, people will see when the activity has begun, if any timers are going off, or you're asking for input if you're not meeting all together, and then you'll get the nice user meeting summary sent out into whatever chat channel you have to distribute that that particular ceremony took place. I'm going to hand it back to Rachel, who's going to show you how that updates the reporting in GitLab.
All right, sharing my screen again. So we've had this sprint poker meeting, and the team has been kind of reviewing some of the issues and assessing if their weights are set correctly. And I'm back in GitLab. I'm looking at my 1.0 release charts, and I haven't yet refreshed the page since we've made the changes to our issues in the planning poker meeting. So as you can see, current before the planning poker meeting, we had a total issue weight of 117 story points. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page to reflect what actually changed since we did our planning poker. And as you can see, our issue weight actually decreased. Um, so the level of effort required to complete all of the work in this release is actually lower than we thought, which is really great. And so this gives me an opportunity as a PM to either say, okay, maybe we can release this version early. We are a startup. It might be great to get this product in front of our end users faster. Um, or maybe I can say, we want to keep the same release date. Maybe I can pull up a few other features from future releases, and we could get them pushed out in this 1.0 release sooner. So that would be my work from here. But on another level, being able to do these planning exercises with the team as a non-technical user, it's really helpful for me because I'm consistently asked for updates on these different features, and being able to have the accurate data to show, yes, this is going to be completed, or no, we have to push this out forward, and giving reasons why. It really makes my job easier because everything's more accurate, and I have more confidence when I speak to the stakeholders on this product. So we just wrapped up a sprint on this team, and I'm going to turn it back to Jordan, who's going to show us another type of meeting that we can do in terms of retrospective, to keep doing the things that we've identified as working well on our team in this last sprint, and then maybe identify areas that need improvement in future sprints. So I will turn that back to you, Jordan, to guide us through that in Parabol.
Awesome. I think that one theme that Rachel and I want to get across today is that GitLab and Parabol offer a very tight and easy way in order to get your team to move through the Agile development process. And if we think about the activities that you would do in GitLab in order to plan what it is that you're building, break it into releases, jump into Parable, coordinate estimations for those particular issues, start your sprint. At the other end of that, you're going to hold a retrospective. And the idea in Agile development is that you reserve time for an hour, maybe 90 minutes, in order to reflect back on how you were functioning as a team, both internally with your internally with your teammates and externally with your stakeholders. Parable and GitLab make that really easy. If I go here to the meetings view and let me click here, I'm now on the GitLab and Parable team, and we have a retro for sprint number 2 set up. A hot tip when you're using Parable, say you start a sprint, start your retrospective activity actually on day one of the sprint rather than at the end, because then that meeting area, that activity will be open, spool up feedback. So if something happened where, hey, I was counting on person X and I didn't know on vacation, they didn't update their calendar, you could get feedback rather than having to rely on recall for the moments that could make you more efficient. Every activity in Parable is broken down into these discrete agenda items. Parable begins with reflection. And as people contribute things to their feedback is held to be anonymous. You can't see what they've typed. You just know that they've added something. So we don't anchor each other and pile on. We're trying to get a real broad picture of how our team had been working over the sprint period. So maybe I'll add a couple of pieces of content here. Maybe I would say something like, carrier wave wasn't such a bad API after all, we're able to add the photos feature in record time. Maybe where we got stuck is something like we should stop requiring two senior signatures to approve a merge request before we're allowed to ship to production. We're too slow getting value out to the field, something like that. And I can see here that our teammates have added a couple of other reflections. Of course, if we were facilitating this process, we could add a timer, either say, okay, everyone gets 5 minutes to contribute, or if we've started this retrospective in some sort of chat collaboration, we could actually set when this phase would finish on a future day and allow the chat tool to participate in the facilitation, which is really nice. So what I'm going to do is assume that everybody has added their reflections, and we're going to move to the grouping process. And the we do here, the goal of this particular phase is people have been adding reflections. You can sort of consider them to be grains of salt that we should take in terms of feedback to the team. What I want to do now is form little salt mountains to see if there are things that we should dig into in order to improve our team's work. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to read a few of these, like back-end service refactoring, improve AI response consistency, cross-functional collaboration between front-end and back-end, smoothed integration, design system components, sped up UI development. So, maybe this is a theme about, like speeding the team or whatever the case is. All of us can drag cards around. So, maybe Rachel, if you wanted to just like pick up a card and drag it, um, everyone can see it in the grouping process. There you go. There's Rachel dragging a card around. Of course, we're living in the age of AI, and each one of these things has enough meaning. Groups button. What that's going to do, get a bunch of nicely named themes, and we'd be all done. If we want to know what theme had been formed, you can see that carrier wave and great collaboration in the photo library ended up in the same group. Anyway, I'm going to move on past grouping now that we've got some themes formed. And then what we're going to do is ask the team to vote. And so let's see here. Let's say I really care about improving our communication. I'm just voting on my side. Everyone else is voting on their side. And I want to collaboration, and maybe I'll throw a bone to testing and quality as well. No, streamlining approval processes. Yeah, that's okay, cool. So now I'm going to assume that everybody's voted. Of course, I actually have tools here that let me see that there are still 6 votes outstanding. I can adjust and customize many of the meeting phases in Parable, including how many votes people get. And I'll move us along. And let's say that, we spent 5 minutes reflecting, 2 minutes grouping, and less than a minute or so on voting. That's pretty typical. We have an hour for a retrospective. We've invested fewer than 10 minutes, and now we're going to have a very nice and tightly organized retrospective with the most important theme coming out at the top. And we can see, because it got 9 votes from all the team members. When we actually dig into this particular theme, all of those reflections are going to be given verbatim. As I set up this retrospective, all of these reflection cards are anonymous. You can disable that if you want. If you've got super high trust in your team and you want to see who wrote each one to ask them for more information, you can do that. And then over here in our discussion ribbon, Parables AI will suggest a question to open the group. So what specific strategies could we implement to increase our collaboration, ensure that real-time updates propagate? that's a way that we can get started. And then if we've held multiple retrospectives on a team, we can see when these themes, a similar theme, has ever come up before. And so if you have a chronic teamwork issue, um, our tool will help you discover that, and perhaps then you'll prioritize doing something about it. And then, of course, a retrospective is really only as good as it closes the loop and actually helps your team make change. And so, one of the things that we can do here, if we see like pair programming in the photo upload feature sped up bug fixes, we could do something like create a task, and it might be write a team agreement on when um, pair programming should be considered. And this task right now will end up in Parabol's default tasking system that exists in the Parable tool, but that's not useful if most of our team's eyeballs are in GitLab. And so what I can do is I can click the push to integration button, and I can just push that right out, and it will create a GitLab issue. And now I can just click on it and we can see it's in GitLab. Some of the best teams, just talking about ways of improving agile teamwork, is to create the chore work of improving your teamwork actually in the tool where people have most of the eyeballs. So, if you keep your working agreements, say, in GitLab Markdown, you can actually evolve your team agreements by just adding them to your backlog. Anyhow, this is how retrospectives work in Parable. And then, just like any of our other meetings, when you officially end the meeting, you pronounce it closed. What's going to happen is you're going to get a nice meeting summary. Retrospectives are nice because you get this um, nice summary of actually what happened. So if there are other stakeholders who are like, hey, how's your team evolving since, we did the reorg or whatever, you can share information directly from the meeting summary. And then you get a really nice accounting of everybody that took tasks. And just before we open up Q&A, I want to show you one last feature. Parable has a super powerful reporting interface. So this works across planning poker, stand-ups, scrum meetings, retrospectives, and everything. Basically, if you're familiar with any kind of knowledge management system that is block oriented, you'll be right at home in the way in which reports are constructed from Parable. There are these slash commands, and so one of the commands is called insights. And what it lets you do is it lets you select one or more teams. So if you're a team lead over many different teams that are running a large program, you can get insights out from across your entire organization. And you can select what kinds of meeting types you want to include in that and what time range you want to include. And so here I've got a bunch of retros that were on our MechaFix team. And it's going to ask you to put in some sort of a prompt. And your prompts can be um, very simple to very elaborate. So we see our users pretty constantly being like, hey, gather all of the user feedback and like chronic bugs that you've observed across all of these teams and tell us what are the things that are eating our lunch. We can do something really simple here, which is like, um, let's see. Yeah, write a report of any chronic themes that you see repeat across more than one retrospective meeting. Sure, we'll try that one. Be concise and clear, and I can click the Generate Insights button, and it will take all of that meeting data and it will package it up and it will send it off to an AI API. And by the way, I'm not sure how many folks that are operating within the DoD are on this webinar today, but we work with several of the secure and approved GPT tools as well. And so if that's of interest to you, if you're operating at an elevated impact level, if you're on a self-hosted instance of Parable, we can do this in a secure way, which is very unique. Anyway, we we'll construct a report. And so if you're looking at your organization from a higher level, you can get the stuff out in this way. One other highlight that I'll give you, since this is really novel technology, people are still looking and discovering for cool ways of applying it. Is we've seen some of our clients, we have a rich 360 review process in the product. And people are using this to create timeline reports of what a person had accomplished over a period of time, and then use that input to have super rich personnel reviews as well. And then when you want to get the information out, by the way, it's really easy. Hit copy, you paste it in the document repository of your choosing, an email, whatever, and zips out. There you go. All right. With that, we've shown you a lot today. I'm going to hand it back to Jody, and she can open it up for the next.
Well, thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Rachel, for that awesome demo. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you have any questions, now is a great time to go ahead and put them in the chat. If you're interested in trying out GitLab and Parabol for yourself, here's software to get you started with a 90-day Parabol free trial. Our contact information is on the screen, so don't hesitate to reach out if that's something you're interested in. Or if you're just interested in learning more about GitLab and Parabol together, your software can support your team's success. We will be sending out an email within the next 24 hours with a recorded copy of this webinar for you to revisit anytime at your convenience. And let's go ahead and check the chat.
Don't be shy. It could be anything. And from can you do this in GitLab? Can you do that in Parabol? To, hey, we're facing this issue on our team today. Happy to take those questions as well. If you're eating lunch, tell us what you're eating for lunch. Is there anybody on the webinar today who's presently using GitLab or presently using Parabol? We'd also love to hear from you. Let us know. I hear from Sam, one of the participants in the webinar. He's using both GitLab and Parabol today. That's awesome.
Nice. I see some other folks saying I use GitLab. Welcome. I hope maybe you got something out of the agile management side of things in GitLab.
Any feature requests? We would love to hear those too.
I'm not seeing anything new, so I think we can go ahead and wrap things up here. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.